Hello, I'm Reverend Judith Laxer, and I'd like to talk with you a bit about Gaia's Temple, which is a house of worship for the Divine Feminine here in Seattle, Washington. I started goddess worship services in September of the year 2000, and I started them because it occurred to me that everywhere on Sunday morning people were gathering in their houses of worship with people of a like mind and of similar spiritual paths. And there was no place for lovers of the earth and those who followed an earth-based form of spirituality or pagan form of spirituality to gather and meet and have the same sort of service provided for them. When I say pagan, I like to make the distinction and explain exactly what the word pagan means, because there's been centuries and centuries of propaganda that have twisted and warped the original meaning. The word pagan means of the earth. It simply means of the earth. And so those who are pagan or who follow a pagan path are those who honor Mother Nature and the planet Earth as a live, sentient being. And we recognize her as the great mother of us all, who is the great provider and our great mother goddess. So pagans follow earth-based forms of spirituality. What I'd like to say to people who have never experienced pagan worship before or have no idea what this particular spiritual path is about is that it is a joyful one and it is a life-affirming one. It is an inclusive spiritual path. By inclusive, I mean that everyone is welcome, and that the divine feminine does not replace the divine masculine. The goddess as well as the god are worshipped in Gaia's temple. This is in our attempt to bring balance back into the world. The services in Gaia's temple are very, very joyful. People come because they feel like they're not in this alone. People can experience humor as well as the ability for us to go deep. There is a great sense of community there. Men and women and children and families are coming because of their common care for the earth.
I've been coming to Gaia's Temple since about 2004, probably about the time we started using this space. The reason I first came was that my wife said, honey, I'd like you to go with me to a pagan service. And I'll be honest, I was sort of like, okay, whatever. And I came to the service, and it turned out I loved it, which was sort of a surprise. It just felt really genuine and loving, and it made me feel good. It made me feel closer to, to humanity or to God, or however you want to put that. It gave me that feeling of connectedness that I think is the point of most religions, most spiritual practice. So I was surprised that I just was really enchanted with it, and the music was great, and the people were great, and so we've been coming ever since. I don't know. I'm a pagan, I guess.
Two significant places of growth that have happened for Gaia's Temple recently, which are both very exciting. One is increasing the amount of services that there are per month. At this point, we're offering 18 services a year, so there's always one on the second Sunday, and then we can plug in 6 other services, typically every other month. The other area of significant growth has been in the launching of our youth program, which we started about a year ago. And so we have a place for the children to go during the services. We call it our Pagan Sunday School. What is also really wonderful about that is that the children do not feel excluded from the service. They begin the service with us. After the creation of sacred space that they participate in, the children are called to the front of the service in the front of the room, and we sing a beautiful song to them, and then they walk down the center aisle while people make an archway of their hands, and we sing them down into school, which is just lovely.
I'm Sarah Weir, and I am co-director of the children's program at the temple, and it's an opportunity for the children to have a developmentally age-appropriate opportunity to engage in the same stories and celebrations as the parents are celebrating. Our primary focus is just to give the kids an opportunity to celebrate the turning of the wheel of the year in a format that they might not receive in school or in other places. We really focus on how the year is connected through light and dark as the seasons change. And we offer opportunities where the children can really connect with their place on the earth and their place in the heavens, and how we are part of the earth, and we feel the earth turn, and we feel the seasons change, and what that means to us. This is the way the year goes around and around, and here we are hanging out with each other, looking for our spot on the year. So, are we, I'm going to turn it this way, John. Okay, so are we at gathering colored eggs? No. Is that where we are in the year? No. Okay, do we put lights on trees?
No.
Okay. We are opening, now this is a funny one. What do you think that is?
My birthday.
You think that's your birthday, Amber? What month is your birthday?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the hottest, highest month of the year. That's summer solstice, right? We hear great things. The kids have a great time. The parents really enjoy the opportunity to take part in the temple services, during which kids get more squirrely and wiggly. They're really grateful for the opportunity to have that time to really engage with what's going on in the service. And they're really happy that their children are having so much fun, making great friendships with the other kids, and learning what they learn and making the projects that they make, which really reflect our engagement with Mother Earth and the turning of the wheel of the year.
Main reason I started looking for some place to bring our kids is my children turned to me one day and said, how come we're the only ones that are different at school, because everybody else is more Christian oriented? And I thought we needed to find a place. And so we found Gaia's Temple, and there are so many children here, and the children's program teaches them all of the elements. And one night we actually had a solstice circle with their grandmother, and Marcus was able to call all the elements just like Reverend Judith does, and it taught me that my children are learning to be spiritual and to understand, and that they're not different from the rest of the world, and they have a community.
Another thing that I think is very unique about a Gaia's Temple service is that because it is worshiping the divine feminine, you'll hear pronouns referring to the deity as she, her, hers, as opposed to most houses of worship where you only hear he and him and his. So of course this is very, very distinct and different. It's very empowering for women, of course, to hear the divine expressed in feminine pronouns. But I think it's also a bit of a relief to some of the men who come also, who are able to kind of shed some of that burden of spiritual authority that they've been carrying for centuries and centuries and centuries. I founded this ministry 8 years ago, and there are times when it's kind of hard for me to believe how this whole thing has gone. And there are times when I stand up there in Gaia's Temple and I look out at all these people who have come together to worship the great goddess with me, and I wonder, how did I get here? And I don't really know if I have a succinct answer to that. I do know that it was one step at a time, but I also know that I did feel called and guided, and that every step of the way has been sustained by a great sense of my faith, and a great sense that I'm not in this alone, and that the Great Mother has been helping me, and therefore helping all of us. It's a privilege and an honor for me to be participating this way and know in a very large, expansive perspective that what we're doing here on a spiritual level is helping to save the planet. And I hope that you come and join us and experience the joy and the beauty and the great celebration of Mother Nature in Gaia's Temple.